Okay, so what if your 5G connection didn't just stop at the edge of the city or even at the coastline? We are about to dive into one of the most incredible frontiers in connectivity right now, taking 5G off the ground and launching it straight into space. This is all about how non-terrestrial networks, or NTNs, are getting ready to connect every single corner of our planet. I mean, just think about it for a second. What if your connection was just always there, no matter where you were? You could be sailing in the middle of the Pacific, flying at 35,000 feet, or maybe working way out in a remote mountain range. This isn't science fiction anymore. It's the real promise behind the tech we're unpacking today. Because here's the reality check. Our current 5G networks on the ground, as amazing as they are, they have their limits. They can't just easily reach the middle of an ocean or stretch deep into rural areas or, provide instant coverage when a disaster takes cell towers down. This creates this huge connectivity gap, and that is the problem that needed a solution. So where do you even start to find an answer for that? Well, you look up. The next great leap for 5G isn't about building more towers on the ground. It's about creating a network in the sky. And this brings us to the hero of our story, the Non-Terrestrial Network, or NTN for short. To put it simply, it's all about taking the 5G network we already know and extending it to platforms flying way above our heads. We're talking satellites and high-altitude drones. Now, the key here is that it's not trying to replace our ground networks, but to work with them, to complement them, creating one single, truly global system. So this celestial network actually has a few different layers, kind of like highways at different altitudes. Way, way up there, you've got GEO satellites. They stay put in one spot and cover a massive area, but the signal has a really long way to travel. Then you've got MEO and LEO satellites in much lower orbits, zipping around the Earth, which gives you much lower latency. And then closest to us, you have what are called HAPS. Think of them as high-altitude drones or balloons, offering super flexible coverage over a specific region with almost no delay. Each layer has its own special job to do. Okay, so we've covered the what and the why. Now let's get into the really cool part, the how. We're going to do a quick technical deep dive into the huge engineering hurdles that engineers had to figure out to make any of this a reality. Yeah, beaming 5G from a tiny object moving at thousands of miles per hour in space down to your phone, it is not simple. Engineers had to tackle 4 massive challenges. First, just the distance alone creates a big signal delay. That's latency. Second, the incredible speed of these satellites causes something called a Doppler shift, which can totally mess with the signal. Third, your phone's connection has to get handed off from one satellite to the next seamlessly. And finally, that signal gets a lot weaker traveling all that way. And to put that latency problem into perspective for you, a round-trip signal to one of those high-up geostationary satellites and back can take about 600 milliseconds. That's over half a second. In a regular 5G network on the ground, we're talking about just a few milliseconds. A delay that big would completely break most of the apps we use, so it was a massive, massive problem to solve. So, how in the world do you get everyone's technology to work together to solve problems this big? Well, you create a global standard. An organization called the 3GPP, they're the ones who define the rules for all mobile communication. They stepped in and literally rewrote parts of the 5G rulebook to work with the physics of space. So, in their big Release 17 standard, the 3GPP rolled out some really clever fixes. To handle that long signal delay, they basically taught the network to be more patient. To handle the data protocols, they tweaked the timers to wait a bit longer for a response. And to manage your phone jumping between satellites that are just screaming across the sky, they built totally new mobility procedures. This global standard is what really, truly unlocked NTN for everyone. All right, so we've waded through the technical weeds. Now for the payoff. Why does all this ridiculously complex engineering even matter? Let's take a look at how NTN is already connecting our lives in ways that just weren't possible before. For the entire maritime industry, this is an absolute game changer. Imagine getting real, high-speed broadband on massive cargo ships and cruise liners. But at the same time, you can also track every single shipping container in real time, no matter how far out in the middle of the ocean it is. For flying, it means finally getting that seamless, high-speed Wi-Fi that actually works from the moment you take off to the moment you land. But, even more importantly, it provides a way more robust and reliable communication channel for pilots and air traffic control, which seriously enhances safety up in the sky. Now, this one is just critical. When a natural disaster like a hurricane or an earthquake completely knocks out the networks on the ground, NTN can be deployed almost instantly. This gives first responders a vital communication lifeline, letting them coordinate rescue efforts when every single second counts.
And then just think about the Internet of Things. Now you can put thousands of sensors, well, pretty much anywhere, and remote mine spread out across huge farms or in an oil rig in the middle of the sea, and you can get real-time data back from all of them. This unlocks incredible new efficiencies for all these industries.
And you know what? All of these applications, they're just the beginning. The foundation has been laid, but this technology is going to evolve and fast. So let's take a quick look at what's just over the horizon for our global networks. We are right here. At step 1, the foundation is built. The very next step is creating truly hybrid networks, where your phone can switch from a ground tower to a satellite and back again without you ever even noticing. After that, we're going to see the full deployment of these mega constellations with thousands of satellites, making this a service for everyone. And ultimately, all of this hard work is a massive stepping stone towards the vision of 6G, a single, intelligent, and completely pervasive global network. From connecting the most remote villages to powering the next generation of global industry, non-terrestrial networks are fundamentally changing what it means to be connected. So I'll just leave you with this thought. The next time you look up at the sky, just remember, your next data packet, your next phone call, your next video stream, it just might be coming from space.